Hello BookTube, I'm Vanessa and today I'm here with my October wrap-up. First of all, before I start this video, I kind of just wanted to apologize to any of you guys that maybe happened to be invested in my video schedule thing. I know that I was kind of just getting back into the swing of uploading multiple times a week and everything, which I was really happy about, but then tragedy struck and I broke my toe. My pinky toe. My little baby toe. How did it happen, you ask? Was I playing sports? Did I drop something heavy on it? Was I in a freak snowboarding accident? No, I stubbed my toe. I stubbed my toe so hard that it broke. And surprise for anyone who has not broken their little toe before, there's nothing you can do about it. I went to the doctor. I went to the doctor and told them oh, I think my toe's broken. And the doctor literally was like, yeah, it's broken. Have fun. And it's not that bad, honestly, it's fine. But the only thing that made it really inconvenient was that I don't pay for a parking pass at my college because they're $300. So I actually kind of just park in the downtown public parking garage area, and then I walk a mile to class every day, which I'm usually fine with because I like walking, but not with a broken pinky toe. Anyways, long story short, why this whole tangent was even relevant to my YouTube video schedule was because I was staying with my boyfriend while my toe healed, so I was basically living at his house so that he could drive me to school and drop me off at my class's front door so I didn't have to walk on my toe, which was super nice of him and I love him, but I don't feel like recording videos at his house. I'm sorry, I just didn't want to do that. So, sorry for the weird video schedule. Anyways, let's do my October wrap-up now. The first book that I read in October was The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein, which is a retelling of Frankenstein, but it's from Elizabeth Lavenza's point of view. And if you guys haven't read Frankenstein, Elizabeth Lavenza is Victor Frankenstein, love interest / wife. And in the original Frankenstein story, I really have always felt bad for Elizabeth because it's Victor is straight up awful. The creature is also straight up awful. Fight me. I know that's an unpopular opinion. And poor Elizabeth Lavenza just gets wrapped up in it. She's innocent. She doesn't know what's going on and she gets the shit into the stick basically. So definitely excited to see Elizabeth's take on all of these events, especially from Kirsten White. And I really liked this story a lot. I felt like it held on to the heart and soul of the original Frankenstein story just enough, but also allowed itself to discuss topics in a more modern context, as well as explore issues that were not the point of the original Frankenstein, but are able to be showcased in this book and this story, and I really like that. One of my favorites was the idea of female identity and the way so much of the time female identity has to depend on our surroundings, what we have to do to survive those surroundings or to make them work to our benefit, and that really it sometimes is a luxury to be able to be a good person, to be able to be the kind of girl that you want to be, because a lot of times you have to become something else just to make it. And that's kind of what Elizabeth is going through in this story. And in some ways I didn't like the way it was done because it made Elizabeth's character very unlikable and very unrelatable, but at the same time you understand why she's that way, so even though you don't necessarily relate to her or like her, you get her. And I guess that's the most important thing. The next book that I read is a book that I've been waiting to read forever, and finally the day has come. I read The Diviners by Libba Bray. I don't know why it took me so long to read this book because I knew I was gonna love it, and so many of you guys have been telling me for years that I need to read it soon and to move it up on my TBR, and you guys were so right. Thank you for encouraging me, and I'm sorry I didn't listen to you sooner, but this book was freaking amazing. It is set in the 1920s in New York City, and it definitely has that Gatsby flapper girl vibe to it. It also deals with supernatural stuff, and there's spirits and fortune telling and murder mystery stuff going on. And it also, I think, touched on, it didn't go into details and stuff, but it touched on American folklore and kind of local legends, as well as cultural folklore from the many different cultures that were in New York at this time. And I think it also, again, didn't go into detail necessarily, but it acknowledged the presence of a lot of racial issues and inequality issues and kind of like the bad things about American history that aren't the romanticized, like glorified 1920 stuff that we usually see. I just thought that it was perfect, and I love the way that it blended these things, and the characters were so good. The next book that I read in October was the Spooktober group book, which was Undead Girl Gang by Lily Anderson, and I loved this book so much too. This book is about a teenage girl whose best friend dies, and everyone is saying it's a suicide, but our main character doesn't believe that, and to find out the truth, she tries a witchcraft spell to bring her friend back from the dead so that she can find out what really happened, and the spell works. She brings her friend back from the dead, and she also, unfortunately, because she's not that good at magic, brings back the two high school mean girls who also supposedly killed themselves the week before. So the main character and the three zombie dead girls are now in town, and they have a week to find out what happened. I had my reservations about this book because I felt like that could very easily go cheesy and corny and like juvenile, but while I was reading it, I did not think that at all. I thought it was amazing. It was campy and it was lighthearted and it was like a tropey high school story, but it also, I feel like, dove so much deeper, kind of turned some of the tropiness on its head, and there were times when it was very dark and it was very emotional. And the story portrayed some very deep and some very thoughtful messages, and I just thought it was really good. The next book that I read was Dread Nation by Justina Ireland, and this is a book about after the Civil War, zombies happen. So slavery is newly ended, but with the emergence of the zombie apocalypse, Black people and Native Americans are required to go to combat school so they can learn how to fight zombies and protect the white people. Needless to say, there is a lot of social commentary in this book, and even though it has a historical setting, a lot of the racial and social issues that it talks about are modern issues, as well as portraying the historical issues of that time period. I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was a cool concept. I'm always here for a zombie story. I love like alternative history. The characters were really wonderful. The main character is fierce and stubborn and tough and great, and there's also a side character who is more feminine and more kind of like uptight and prissy, but it's not portrayed as a negative thing, and there's kind of this really cute like begrudging friendship between those two characters, and I just love it, and it made my little heart really happy. The second half of this book kind of slowed down a little bit for me, and I was a little bit bored for a while when things were moving kind of repetitively and kind of slowly, but then towards the end it really picks back up again, and it ends in a way that is like, oh my gosh, we need the sequel like today. Finally, the last book that I read in October was The Wicked Deep by Shay Earnshaw, and this book was so good. I'm so glad I decided to pick this up. I'm not usually up to date on the new releases, but I made an effort this October to get new releases from my library. By the way, all of these books were from the library. I know that there's been some discourse on Twitter about how YouTubers don't use the library. I will tell you, 98% of the books I read are from the library. All of these books on this shelf back here are from the library. Like, the reason I barely have books to hold up in my videos and I'm always having to insert pictures is because I have to give them back to the library because I checked them out and they're due now. So that's my opinion on the booktubers don't use the library discourse going on. And if you were wondering about my personal library habits, yeah, I'm at the library almost every damn day of my life. Anyways, back to The Wicked Deep. This book is about a town where 200 years ago, 3 women were drowned in the harbor after being accused of witchcraft. And every summer since then, these 3 women return to the island, inhabit the body of a teenage girl that lives there, and drown boys from the town as revenge. And then at the end of the summer solstice, they return to the sea until next year when they will come back and murder again. And one of the things that I loved about this book is that the people in the town are aware of this and they accept it as happening. They're not like, oh, that's weird, what a mystery. You know, the people in the town are like, oh, that's the spirits of the Swan Sisters. Actually, the town is a big tourist attraction because tourists want to come see the swan season and stuff like that. And it's really, really interesting. This book has an amazing atmosphere. The writing style just pulls you in and makes you feel like you are surrounded by magic and by fog and sea. I will say that the ending section of the book kind of lost me a little bit. I was like, towards the end. In some ways it felt very predictable, but then in other ways it felt like there had been no groundwork laid for that ending. That was a weird combination of things, that it could somehow be both of those flaws at the same time for me, but even though that wasn't great for me, I still enjoyed every single moment that I got to experience in the atmosphere of this book. Like, it was so good. So yeah, I read 5 books this month and I loved all of them. And I'm really, really, really happy about my October. Let me know in the comments if you have read any of these books, or let me know what you have read in October and if it was good. I would love to hear about what you've been reading or what you're planning to read soon, and I hope that I get to talk to you soon. Bye!